Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. That means we got Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. Before that, if you've been sleeping under a rock and you watch my program, the Gator men's golf team are national champs. I have spent, what is today? Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, I probably watched 15 to 18 hours of golf. Yes, last night I watched about 6 or 7 straight hours of golf. And boy, you talk about some mentally tough kids. Things did not look good the last 3 holes, but boy, they found a way. And congratulations to JC Deacon and Dudley Hart and the rest of the kids on the team. Just a phenomenal feat. They won the SEC. As Coach Beaird said, they had a clean sweep. They won their conference, they won the national title, and they also had the individual champ. So we'll take your comments on that. We're also going to talk college football. The NBA cranks up tonight, the finals, and also the Memorial Tournament up in Ohio. So let's go to the Titan Number Hotline. We're joined by a college football analyst, Heisman Trophy voter, and I don't know if he's a good golfer or not. Brent Beaird, we're the national champs. How about that?
They need to have a parade for the golf team. People need to appreciate what a feat that was, and how many other teams that are involved with it. So, congrats to Florida. And obviously beating FSU involved with that too. So, it was a big week for the men's golf team. But Shane, not enough's been said about that one yet.
No, I mean, obviously I've been pounding the desk here about the Gator golf team because I golf to me is the greatest sport there is in the world because Brent, as I've said multiple times, you can't throw a 70-yard touchdown. You can throw a 70-yard touchdown, but it can be called back because some dude thought the left tackle was holding. Okay.
Yeah,
in golf, you got rules. And there's nothing about it. That is the rule. And so it's tremendous. The reaction afterwards was outstanding, and they'll be back in Gainesville later this evening. So congratulations to them. We had JC Deacon on last week. We'll get him on eventually. But boy, what a deal that they got done. Brent, let's talk a little college football. Lindy's magazine. I know you were the first one at Publix to go buy it. They have their top 25, and they also have their SEC picks. Give us a little rundown of those.
Yeah, glad to do it. Now Athlon and Lindy's are out. Phil Steele is not out yet, but he will be out by July the 4th. As a matter of fact, Steele said he's got several more coaches to talk to, which again is amazing that he does that, but he does. I give him a lot of credit for it. Top 5, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU. FSU is 6, Washington 7, Penn State 8, Texas 9, and Southern Cal is 10. Also, Tennessee is 13. The Ole Miss is 20. Not sure about that one at all. UTSA is 23. South Carolina is 24. Arkansas is 28. Texas A&M is 30. Now, I can tell you they did not hire Jimbo Fisher at A&M to be 30, did they, Shane? Florida's 32. Miami's 39. Auburn is 42. Missouri's 47, and Mississippi State is 48. So Lindy's SEC, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida's 4, Kentucky's 5, Missouri and Vanderbilt, Western Division, Bama 1, LSU 2, Ole Miss 3, Arkansas 4, A&M 5, Auburn is 6, Mississippi State is 7. So not much expected out of Auburn from the magazines, and also A&M in there too. So Lindy's picks Florida State to win the ACC, Clemson 2nd, North Carolina 3rd, and Duke 4th in that group. So we've got 2 magazines out so far. We've got a lot more information on TV schedules, SEC being in Destin. So a lot going on right now on June the 1st, which is amazing that it's June the 1st, right, Shane?
Yeah, no question about it. The thing that stands out to me in both these magazines, I don't see what they see in Ole Miss at all. And
Yeah.
I'm a Ole Miss Rebel guy now, but I think they'll be pretty good on offense. But defensively, I think they're going to be the worst in the league. I really do.
Yeah.
I believe that. Brent, we had some times of some games come out. Anything there catch your eye?
Well, CBS, and this is the last year of CBS and the SEC being together. So it's going to be interesting to see what Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler do in 24. But as far as CBS is concerned, September 16th, Georgia hosting South Carolina. Obviously, we know Florida, Georgia will be at 3:30. Georgia, South Carolina will be at 3:30. And then you've got Missouri, Arkansas will be on Black Friday on November 24th. There will be a doubleheader on October the 14th, and a primetime doubleheader on November the 4th. Now, usually Alabama, LSU is involved with that somehow, and that will probably be the case again this year. And we know about Florida, Utah being in prime time on Thursday the 31st, LSU, Florida State being in prime time on ABC on Sunday, September the 3rd. So those are some of the games we knew about. Some of these in advance, but more TV schedules are coming out virtually as we speak on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. Gators kicking off at 8 o'clock Eastern time against Utah. Is it 3 hours or 2 hour difference at Salt Lake City? I should know that, but I don't. They're on Mountain Time, so I think it's only 2 hour difference. So I got to get my golf match in on Thursday before the game.
Absolutely.
And then, I'm going to be playing golf out there on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So
wonderful.
I'm excited about that. Brent, before we move on to Destin, speaking of Destin here, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I have not followed it at all. I've been so consumed with golf, and so I'm anxious to hear what's going on. But Andy has a question here brought to you by Meldon Law. Why is it taking so long to decide if there will be 8 or 9 SEC games scheduled? When will that be resolved?
Well, Andy, that's the question everybody wants to know. That might be resolved today or tomorrow. Greg Sankey meets with basically your coaches and your athletic directors today. Now, tomorrow, the reason tomorrow is important is the presidents show up tomorrow. So, will the presidents be at the point of where they want to vote or not? We thought going into this thing that 9-game schedule starting next year would be a slam dunk. but at this point, it's not. And there are a bunch of reasons why that has not happened yet. Now, 5 schools have been very public about their support for 9 games, including Florida, Georgia, A&M, LSU, and Missouri. So there are also some schools that you really don't know what that's going to be at this point. So, and the reason they're saying that they may not be ready to vote yet, and just to keep it at 8 for next year, is the fact of they're saying they don't have enough information. I'm not sure I buy that, but that's what they're saying. A lot of this has to do with, okay, if we're going from 8 to 9, we need some additional revenue from ESPN, and at this point, they don't know if that's going to happen or not. Remember, ESPN has laid a lot of people off over the last few days. They're going to do the same thing over the summer. They've still got they not only deal with college football, as we know, they deal with all these other sports. So you've got that going on as a possibility. The other thing is they don't quite know what the numbers are going to be from the expanded college football playoff. So that's your reality with this too. So what we thought would happen has not happened. And what they may do again is just come out. Look, they may not even vote. They may table this thing to next year, or they might vote. I mean, as Greg Sankey has said, at some point we're circling the airport. We've got to land the plane. Well, and I think in a lot of fans' minds, we got to land the plane and deal with this at some point. A 9-game schedule has been talked about for years, but they've never really been able to do anything with it. So this is the closest they've come to actually being able to vote on it. Now, and I give Tony Barnhart credit for this. Tony made a good point. He said the commissioner has the power to make this decision on his own, regardless of the vote, if he thinks it's in the best interest of the conference. Tony says, and this is true, Sankey works for the presidents, not the coaches or the athletic directors. Now, with that said, Sankey would like to have everybody on the same page, but as we know in this world, that often doesn't happen. So, again, we wait to see what's going on. To me, the best thing they could do is say, okay, we're going to stick with 8 and 24, but we're going to 9 and 25 or 26. I think that would make people feel better, wouldn't it, Shane? Or at least it would give them a little more concrete decision as to what's going on. But as 8/13 on June the 1st, no decision has been made. But today, tomorrow, and Destin are huge days for where this thing might go.
Yeah. My whole thing about the whole thing is with OU and Texas coming in next year. It's next year, or is it 25?
No, it's next year.
Yeah. I would feel like you got to get it how you're going to have it for the next 10 or 12 years. You know, you don't want to play 1 year and then switch it all up. I did see this. So I don't know which way Sankey's leaning, because I saw this quote that you have here from when he was on Feinbaum's show. He says, quote, "I'm pretty sure the last game of the season was 65-7. If the indictment is that we don't play the highest level of football, then someone isn't watching the games." So anyway, I forgot. Was that the final score last year of the national championship game, 65-7?
Awful game, as you remember. And again, the point you brought up, frankly, is a good one. And I think Sankey wants them to go to 9. I think Sankey is a forward-thinking guy, and he knows what that would mean for the league if they're able to do it. A lot of these conferences eventually are going to 9, and the SEC. Now, look, if you ask me in 10 years or 5 years, would the SEC be at 9? Right now, I'm going to probably say yes. I think it's going to happen, but it may be a little bit later than we think it was going to be.
At Chris Storing Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Storing Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Brent Beaird, our college football analyst on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Joseph wants to know, when is Brent Beard's top 25 coming out?
We're working on all that as we speak. That's a good question.
Brent, in your notes here, you got some of the most important additions of teams in the SEC in the off season. Want to go through a couple of those?
Yeah, want to give Saturday Down South credit for this. Georgia, their best addition, Mike Bobo. Some Georgia fans may disagree with that, but and that's going to be one of the real storylines with Mike Bobo as offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. LSU, Omar Spites, he is from the Pac-12 transfer. A lot of people may not know about him, but I think they will. Alabama, Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. I think he's done a good job with them so far. Bobby Petrino, obviously, for Texas A&M. That's going to be fascinating to see where that goes. Travis Williams, the defense coordinator for Arkansas, have heard good things about him. Florida would be Austin Armstrong, and I agree with that totally. The comment here is the Gators will win games by running the ball and playing Armstrong's aggressive scheme with better players. So I think that's probably some real validity to that too. So just a little bit of some of the better additions for some of the SEC schools.
Yes, indeed. John asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Brent, has there been any discussion as to the divisions or what the league will go to when OU and Texas get here? The divisions are going to be gone, correct?
Yes. Basically, every conference in the nation is getting rid of divisions, and it's a good question. And here's why: they don't want a situation like they did last year in the SEC.
Oh man, there goes my damn internet again.
Where your Eastern Division champion is undefeated.
I don't know if Brent's still talking or not.
And your Western Division champion is not.
You there, Brent?
So I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it's usually around 8:18 my internet goes out for a minute.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if you were still talking or not.
I was.
Also, it's kind of interesting here. You got the years of eligibility left for the quarterbacks in the SEC.
Now, it is, because now we're not saying they're going to stay that long, but just for interest here, Carson Beck of Georgia, who we think will be the starter this year, actually has 3 years of eligibility left. Spencer Rattler actually has 2. Now, he'll play this year, obviously, and he could come back, but he probably will go to the NFL. Did this surprise you a little bit, Shane? KJ Jefferson in Arkansas also has 2.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So that, and Will Rogers of Mississippi State has 2. Now, obviously, Jefferson and Rogers and Rattler will probably all end up in the NFL if they'll have a good year and don't get hurt. But that is interesting that has been tracked, and that is what you've got is not one but multiple years of eligibility for those guys.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, gosh, I meant to do a screenshot of it when I was reading it on Twitter, and I forgot, and I can't find it now. But somebody did a deal on like all the starting quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference. And I want to say 12 of the 14 of them are all transfers that have played elsewhere. I think Will Rogers, KJ Jefferson are like the only ones that have like signed out of high school and are still playing for their school. I think, and I could be wrong. I don't have it in front of me, but it was a ton, and you don't really think about it. Alabama's going to probably have a transfer starting for them. Georgia
Totally.
will not. So Georgia's one of them.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, absolutely crazy. So real quick, we got a text on the Titan Mark text line. We got a bunch of texts actually, but I'm gonna read this one. This is I'm not sure who it's from. It says, "Hey Shane, I'm watching the golf, and you probably are too. So you probably saw Ricky Castillo actually say his name Castillo. I, I think JC would like to. Oh yeah, because JC thought they pronounced it wrong. Yeah, he has some Filipino in his background or in his family, and so that's why they do the Castillo at the end. So appreciate the text. Brent, let's go around the SEC. But as many of our listeners who watch this program all over the world say that we don't give any love, we go in alphabetical order. So we sometimes run out of time to talk about some of the teams at the bottom of the alphabet. So we're going to start with the Aggies of A&M, who I think are going to surprise a lot of folks this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the magazines are not saying that. As we mentioned earlier, A&M predicted to be 30th in Lindy. So that's rather incredible to think about that. I think again the main thing is A&M is well thought of offensively with Bobby Petrino. They're very excited about Connor Weigman and Max Johnson. Max Johnson can start for a lot of schools. They've got to replace Devin Achane, DJ Durkin as defensive coordinator. I think they'll be better defensively. They also have got an important game in September with Miami. That, by the way, it was just announced that the Miami hosting Texas A&M game Saturday the 9th, starting at 3:30 p.m. Boy, that will be rather toasty, shall we say, at Coral Gables at 3:30 p.m. on it, Shane.
Yes, it will for sure, no question. But yeah, that will be a good game to tune into for sure. The Vols, a lot of love for the Vols out there. I'm not one. I'll probably be in the minority. I think Heupel's done a tremendous job. I'm not a believer in Joe Milton. They lost a lot of good wideouts to the National Football League. Anything new coming out of Tennessee?
Yeah, the TV schedule was announced. By the way, their opener against Virginia, which is in Nashville, by the way, is a noon kickoff. Oh, my. In September in the South, no game should be started before 6 p.m., but that's when it is at that point. Now, the opener versus Florida, I understand, will be a 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. If people have not heard that, their first game against Austin Peay at Neyland Stadium will be on the SEC Network Plus. So just to throw out a few games, that would be interesting against Virginia. Obviously, Virginia lost some players a few months ago in some tragedy there, but I'm with you, Shane. Tennessee with Heupel will be. I think they'll be fine offensively, but I'm not a believer yet in the Tennessee defense.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. South Carolina, boy, I still seeing them in person twice last year, Brent, obviously in the swamp where Florida demolished them. And then I called the game, their Gator Bowl game with Frank Frangie when they played Notre Dame. They won that game, but boy, they just don't look like a great football team to me, but they have a lot of love. What do you think about the Gamecocks?
Yeah, and we mentioned their SEC game at 3:30 on CBS against Georgia. They have people may not have heard this, but they've got a pretty interesting opener that is against North Carolina and Charlotte. That's a 7:30 kickoff on ABC. Then they'll play Furman the game after that. But again, you've got Spencer Rattler coming back. he needs some help on the outside with the wide receivers. It's going to be very interesting to see if he gets that. But watch that North Carolina South Carolina game. That will be, I think, one of the undervalued openers for the SEC.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the so-called tough games for Carolina, which they're at Georgia, they got Clemson, they're at North Carolina, they're at Tennessee, and they're at A&M. I'm looking at that. Man, I don't know if they can win any of those.
Yeah. Look, hey, Shane, at this point of those 5 games, I bet they'd sign a contract right now to win 2 of them, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I bet I'm gonna say right now they go 0-5 in those.
They could.
All right. Ole Miss Rebels. We all know about Quinshon Judkins, the freshman running back who's outstanding. Anything else coming out of Oxford?
Again, we don't know who the quarterback is, but I've been told that the quarterback's going to be Jackson Dart, who starts. Got a friend who works with Ole Miss, and that pretty well is a train of thought around there. Is that's who it's going to be. So keep that in mind. They've got 3 very capable quarterbacks who I think will be fine. But Jackson Dart, from what I've heard, will be the starter for Ole Miss this year.
Yeah, Missouri. Speaking of Missouri, we got a text on the Titan Mar text line from Cal, and he wanted to get your thoughts, Brent, on the comments from Eli Drinkwitz at SEC Media, not SEC Media Days, but at the meetings in Destin.
Yeah, you can always depend on Eli for some interesting comments. One of the comments that he said about the 8 or 9 game schedule, this is rather amusing, and there's some truth to it. He said, "I'm a history teacher by trade, and every time I come to one of these meetings, I'm blown away that the 13 colonies actually formed a union, but we can't agree on an 8 or 9 game schedule." So Eli threw that one in there, by the way. And Eli is always known. I think he's a pretty good football coach. He's not going anywhere because he signed an extension and got a raise, although some people may question that. But I do think that this is a big year for them at this point. They've got some of their games, a lot of the early ones are on the SEC network. Middle Tennessee State. They've got an intriguing game with Kansas State on September the 16th, too. That's a 12 o'clock noon kickoff. So that a little bit of Missouri news there.
Yeah, got a Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. Alan says, Brent is a walking, talking encyclopedia of college sports. Love the show. Chad says Tennessee could easily lose to Florida, TAMU, Bama, Kentucky, and Georgia could be 7-5 back to reality for the Vols. The Bulldogs going into year 1 without Mike Leach. Huge transition going on there. This really is intriguing to me just because I like Will Rogers a lot. I think he's a really good college quarterback. But the dude has never taken a snap from under center. I know they're going to put him under center some, Brent, because he played in the air raid in high school. And then that's all he's done at Mississippi State. But boy, you talking about a night and day when it comes to offense. This is going to be interesting in Starkville.
Well, it really will. What Shane's talking about, and he can explain it much better than I can, is that they may do a little bit of air raid, but they're basically going under center. And the real difference here is their running backs, who normally are pass receivers, we're going to run the football. I know that sounds strange, but the way that offense was set up, the air raid, it was more throwing the ball out of the backfield for the running backs, and the running backs with Mike Leach were always, sometimes they were the leading receivers for the team. So TV schedule is out for Mississippi State. Now, in week 2, I thought this was interesting. Arizona will make a return trip to Starkville. You don't get that game very often. That's going to be on the SEC network. big game with LSU on week 3 that's coming up. And Shane, you know this better than anybody. Mississippi State will match up with Southern Miss for the first time since 2019. Shane, in that state, that's a big game, is it not?
Yeah, it really is. That's the game that Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they don't want any part of Southern Miss because
That's
it's
right.
a no-win situation.
That's right.
You know, you're supposed to beat Southern Miss, and boy, if you lose to them, oh God, that's not a good thing. John has a question for you, Brent, here, brought to you by Meldon Law. Brent, looking at the Texas-Alabama game in week 2, do you think that Texas has the better offensive weapons in that game?
They very well might. I mean, Quinn Ewers is going to be your quarterback. Arch Manning is. I'm not saying he's going to be redshirted, and I think he's got a pretty good attitude about it. That he'll go into season 1 and bide his time. But look, now they don't have their Bijan, their big running back, went to the NFL, but they do have a lot of really good players. Alabama still has the better roster, and they've got some equally as good offensive players that people don't know about yet. So that's going to be a fascinating game in Tuscaloosa. Bama barely won in Austin last year. And that game will be a night game, the second game of the year.
Yeah, back to Mississippi State. Andy asked, how much playing time do I think Creed Whittemore will get? I have no idea. He's an early enrollee, which helps.
Right.
Very talented kid, so we shall see. The Bayou Bengals, look out. They have some air-conditioned helmets.
Yes.
I mean,
this is fascinating to me. This just came out last night that LSU will wear air-conditioned helmets for all practices and games in 2023. They've been created by a Louisiana-based company called Tiger Air. They have a 5-hour lifespan before needing to be charged, and these things are supposed to last for 4 years. So, Shane, I've got to get your take on this. I mean, this is the first I've ever heard of this. I think it's pretty fascinating. They had a little video thing of the players wearing them. But I'm wondering, of course, I'm sure there are a lot of games you wish you'd had one when you were playing. How do you think this might go? I think this is incredible, frankly.
Well, it's interesting because I sell helmets. This is the first I've heard of this, and obviously, it's got to be just some kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a little air blowing in their helmets or what. It is fascinating. But let me tell you something. Whoever Tiger Air is, that if they have a patent on this,
yes,
they're getting ready to probably make a lot of money.
They really are, aren't they?
Yeah. If it works, for a long time, back, gosh, it was after I played, but they started doing where they would have like these little hoses in your shoulder pads where they'd connect it on the bench where they'd put real cold water that went through them to kind of cool you down. I never experienced those either. So I don't know a whole lot about this, but it is interesting.
Yes.
But let me tell you something. If LSU won't be the only team doing this if it works or if it
Absolutely.
has any success. The Georgia Bulldogs, what's going on up in Athens?
Well, there are several things with that. I mean, obviously, after the arrest of Marcus Rosemary Jack Saint for speeding and reckless driving, as you can imagine, Kirby Smart was asked, do you have a discipline problem? And Kirby basically said, we're dealing with this internally. And look, I think in fairness to Georgia, I'm sure a lot of Gator fans or have discussed this, but in fairness to them, this is something they've got to get under control. And I'm sure they're going through all kinds of education and so forth. But Shane, you and I talked about this several months ago, that one of the unintended consequences of NIL was, look, guys this young, when they get a lot of money, what's one of the first things you're going to buy? Well, you're going to buy a car, and you're going to buy a fast car. So I'm, I, it's a problem that they've got to be able to deal with, and I think Georgia is probably doing all they can in order to deal with this. Their opener with UT Martin will kick off at 6 p.m. The game will be on ESPN SEC Plus. Week 2 is Ball State. That's going to kick off at noon. And televised by the SEC Network. So, Shane, do I need to say any more than the first 2 games for Georgia, UT Martin and Ball State? And if you're trying to break a quarterback in, that will probably be a pretty easy way to do it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What can you tell us about the Gators?
Xavier Henderson is going to Cincinnati, and people are wondering where that he is going. The signees have moved in. The final 4 guys from the 2023 recruiting class: Eugene Wilson, the wide receiver; Dijon Johnson, the cornerback; Gavin Hill, the 4-star defensive lineman; and 4-star offensive lineman Caden Jones have all come in, and they. But basically, everybody's on board. Shane can explain that better because he's going through it. That some guys are able to come in early, some guys can't come in until later. But now, basically, today being June 1st, Shane, certainly this week, these guys will get with the trainers, and they've got the program they go through for the summer. And now that everybody is in, they'll get going. And by the way, I'm curious what you think about this. The Gators will debut black uniforms against Arkansas. That is the game that's designated for the saluting those who serve, and there will be auction off later on to military families.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the black uniform. I understand. I know Billy Napier is big on the black. He wore a lot of that at Louisiana, but yeah, it is. I mean, it's for a great cause. Don't get me wrong there. I'm not into the all black stuff. So, Brent, the Auburn Tigers. What's going on with them?
First 3 games on television. Week 1, they're at home against UMass, and then they play Cal, and they go out west. So Auburn will be playing a very rare 10:30 Eastern time game, their second game of the year, and then they come back home. They play Samford the 3rd week in September for homecoming. I just thought that was odd. Shane, How many September homecoming games have you ever heard of?
Well, the only thing I can think of, and I don't have their schedule in front of me, but Samford is their so-called cupcake, which that's usually a good program, but they probably got a bunch of teams from the SEC they ain't real sure they can beat. Yeah. So they're going to try to win that game. We'll finish up in the SEC with the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah, TV games announced for Alabama, Middle Tennessee on September the 2nd. That's who they begin with. That will be a 7:30 game on the SEC Network. And then, obviously, we talked about the Texas game will be the second game of the year. The third game of the year, and folks will be intrigued with this, Bama's actually going to Tampa. They've got a 2-for-1 deal with Tampa that they will play South Florida. That's going to be a 3:30 game at Raymond James. Shane, there'll be more Alabama fans in Tampa than there will be South Florida fans. I can tell you that right now. Their home game against Chattanooga will be a noon kickoff on the SEC Network. That's November 18th. So, Bama, that is their TV schedule, but obviously the big game people are anticipating with that second game of the year when Texas comes to Tuscaloosa.
Rose Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Call them at 352-240-6600. 1779. Just a few more minutes with Brent Beaird. Brent, let's talk ACC real quick. Obviously, FSU's getting a lot of love. I don't feel like I'm hearing anything about the Miami Hurricanes.
Well, I think because of that, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. The jury is still out on what they might be and where that might go. Now, in Lindy's ACC picks, I mean, Miami's 7th. FSU, Clemson, North Carolina, Duke, NC State, Louisville, and Miami. I know Tyler Van Dyke comes back. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league a lot of times. Now, look, it's funny how the magazines differ. Miami's 7 in Lindy's, and they're 4 in Athlon as far as the league is concerned. So I think that's because there's so much uncertainty with that football team. Look, people have asked me about Florida rebuilding, and my answer is, and then they say, well, what about the other teams? And my answer is, well, Florida State's going to be in the top 10. And frankly, Miami's got as much rebuilding to do as Florida does. And Florida gets all the attention with that, and Miami doesn't. But I think, to be fair, Shane, we really don't know much more on what to expect from Miami than we do Florida.
Yeah, very true. All right, before we get you out here, text on the Titan Mark text line from Jonathan. He wants to know, Brent, how many games do you think the Colorado Buffaloes win?
3 or less. They're not going to be, look, they're not going to be very good at all, and that's just the way that it is. I think Dion has probably accepted that, but you just cannot get rid of that many players on your roster and have a new coaching staff and have that many players and be on the same page in a hurry. And Dion is not a real experienced, obviously, Division I coach. So, I mean, everybody will be very interested to see where that goes. But I think, Shane, I don't see them having much success this year at all.
I do not either. All right, before we get you out here, one last thing. I don't know when the meetings end at Destin. Maybe it's today or tomorrow. But do you think there's any way, or is it possible that we know, hey, we're going to have 9 games next year, or we're going to have 8? Are we going to get an answer for they all go back home?
Well, and again, if anybody tuned in late, the Greg Sankey will be meeting with the coaches and athletic directors today. Now, the big deal is going to be tomorrow when he meets with the presidents. That is when now they may come up with some decisions tonight, by tonight, and the presidents just rubber stamp it tomorrow. But it's really up in the air right now where they go. But coming into this thing, a lot of people in the media thought that we would be 9 by the end of the week. It looks more likely now that very well may not happen. That, again, we're talking about next year in 24 when the playoffs expand and Oklahoma and Texas come join the SEC. But so what might happen is they may decide, okay, we're going to stay with 8 for 24 and see what happens after that. So. And right now, if that sounds like a lot of uncertainty, that's because it is. We right now really don't know what's going to happen in those meetings today and tomorrow.
All right, Brent, great stuff as always. I kept you a little too long today. I apologize.
Always
have a great weekend. Great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week, my man.
Always enjoy it, Shane. Take care, bud.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. You can follow Brent on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Going to take a quick timeout, come back. Got a lot of Facebook Lives, text messages to get to. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics. Live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's. Eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Rue's Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Regal Cinemas, The Keys, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Starbucks, Visor Rooftop, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. I want to thank Brent Beaird for taking time to join our program today. If you missed it last night, Florida Gator men's golf wins the national championship. And boy, was it stressful. I tell you what, I haven't been that stressed out watching golf, watching anything the last 2 days. But boy, it was, they got some mentally tough kids to fight through what they did to come from behind and win. So hopefully you got to watch it, but it was outstanding for sure. Let's get to this day in sports, brought to you by Campus USA, Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This day in sports, I can find it here. Yeah. In 1993, Phoenix Suns guard Dan Marley sets a then NBA playoff record by making 8 3-pointers during the Suns' 120-114 win over Seattle in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. I don't know if that record still stands, but that's brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. And tonight, it will be game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Nuggets are a 9-point favorite over the Miami Heat. I think the Nuggets will run right through this series. I think they're that good. NHL starts Saturday. The Stanley Cup Finals start Saturday. Vegas hosting the Florida Panthers. So, and if you're a golf fan, you got a really good golf tournament going on right now. It's already teed off this morning at Muirfield Village up in Ohio. The Memorial. Danny Willett and Brandon Wu and Justin Suh are all at 2 under par early in the morning. Gator Baseball tomorrow. On tomorrow's program, we'll have Jeff Cardozo, the voice of Florida Gator Baseball and a former player. He will join the program. We'll break down this regional. Gators start with FAMU. There's a lot of talk out there that Sully may not stick to his rotation because we've already run ruled, I believe, FAMU earlier in the year. Not that means it's going to happen again, but do you save some of your pitchers? But boy, you got to make sure you take care of business because Texas Tech and UConn are both very good programs and good teams. So we'll see. But we'll talk to Cardozo. He'll break it all down for us tomorrow. But this team has a chance to win a national title as well. So we'll see. Let's see here. We've got a couple of Facebook Lives to get to. I wish this thing would refresh on its own and I wouldn't have to do it. Cliff says, I hope they sweep the Heat so that we'll be done with the NBA. Well, they dragged the NBA Finals out. It's going to take a couple of weeks for it to be over with. And Daniel says, once I saw the fried egg for Georgia Tech, I knew we had it. Well, I didn't know we had it for a while. I tell you what, give Michael Kress. He's the freshman, the lone freshman walk on. He was out of it with 3 holes to play. Had a couple of bad breaks. Got it back to even. Went into extras. Now, obviously, he lost on the second playoff hole, but just that momentum, I think the other guys fed off of that, and a senior laden team. But this is a team that they've been building ever since COVID, that they knew this team had a chance to win it all. So, again, congratulations to them. And we're going to get J.C. Deacon and Dudley Hart, the assistant coach, back on the program here once they get settled in. Like I said, Gator baseball. I don't even know what time first pitch is tomorrow. We'll find out from Cardozo. But that's going to be about it for today's program, folks. We appreciate Brent Beaird joining the program. Make sure you tell all your friends and family to follow our programs. We're always wanting more listeners. We love your input, your text messages, and your Facebook Live messages as well. Hope you have a great day. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Cardozo, get your baseball questions ready for him. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.